At this point, I should say welcome to class. All right, so I'm just going to be walking you through the process on how to make a box frame bag. So let's go through the list of materials you need. You need your frame as well. That's obviously the most important part. You need your frame for the clutch. You'd also need a gum. I'm using Top Bond in this case. Your fabric of choice, your lining for the inside of the bag. I am using satin in this case. You can use silk, you can use fabric lining, you can use Daviva, whatever floats your boat. Just feel free to experiment and see what works for you. You need foam. This is called quarter foam. It's really slim and it's going to be used to pad the frame. If you don't have the foam, you could probably use wadding as well. That's the stuff tailor uses. Scissors. I have two scissors. There'll be a text to explain that. A pen, of course, to draw with, and your chipboard. You can use a cardboard if you do not have access to a chipboard. You need elastic and also what to use in measuring. So I'm going to use both a tape rule and a ruler. So let's get right into it. The first thing you need to do in this case now is apply gum to the frames. That is these two parts that makes your clutch. Just apply gum liberally on it. We're going to be gluing our quarter foam or our wadding to it. Alright, after applying gum liberally, you just put your frame on the quarter foam. Make sure you have gum at all the corners. Lightly press the foam onto the frame and then you trim it off. You can always add gum if you feel it's not sticky enough or if you forgot to add gum to some places, and then you trim. Point. This is a step we should have done from the very beginning, but don't worry, it's not too late. We're going to get the width of our bag. This is to ensure that the sides of our bag are done in such a way that the bag would open easily when it is open. So just use your ruler or your tape rule to measure the width of your bag, as you can see I am doing in this case. Now in this bag, for this bag, the width is about 2.5 cm. So I'm just writing it out so I do not forget. I do that a lot. So just measure the width of the bag you're working with and just write it out. Alright, mine was 2.5. So just measure yours and just set it aside. The next thing we're going to do now is create the inner frame of the bag. This is where we're going to attach our lining there. So you're just going to draw, as you can see that I'm doing, from the inside. Just sketch the inside of the frame, taking note of where the hinges of the bag are. So where the hinges is, you just mark it very close to where the hinges. Just mark it a bit. All right, so at this point, this is where that part we measured comes into play, that 2.5 cm. So from that point you marked, just measure 2.5 cm downwards. Okay, so just give it a 2.5 cm extra length before we measure the other part. Don't worry, this video is with you. If you get confused, you can just go back a bit and watch it again to fully understand. So just measure the 2.5, and then when you're done measuring the 2.5, you then place the other part of the frame on that 2.5 axis. Just try to take note of the point where you marked before. So you just stretch it all the way to that other end, and then you draw it. So we already have the frame for our inner piece of the bag. So just keep watching, and then you'll be able to understand it as time goes. Alright, next step, you just apply gum all over the front of that so you can glue your lining piece to it. So just apply gum lightly all over the front of it, as you can see, as I'm doing in this case, and just apply the gum as liberally as you can, and then you leave it to get tacky a bit. Now please note, when you apply gum to something, please do not stick the fabric to it directly. The gum would seep through the fabric and leave a stain. So it's advisable you leave it for about 3 to 5 minutes minimum. That's if you're working with top bond, for it to dry. So that's why I set that aside, and now I am putting gum on the edges of my frames so that my fabric will stick properly. I've left that one to just dry a bit, so I'm going to do this. Before I'm done doing this, the frame, the chipboard that I applied gum to, should be dried. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is just cut out the fabric I'm going to need, so that way I am not wasting my fabric in this case. I've applied gum on one part, I've left it to dry. Before applying gum to the second one, I'm just going to use it as a pattern basically. So I'm just going to place the fabric, the right side facing down and the wrong side facing upward, put my box frame on top of it, and just try to see how much fabric will be needed to do this. You can arrange it the way you want to. You know, Ankara prints and Afrocentric prints, Kintes, they usually have patterns. So I'm just trying to work mine with a pattern to just see how I want it to look like. That's the design. So you just cut out the fabric that you would need. Just cut it out, as you can see, as I'm doing in this case. See what I'm doing? So that way I'm just looking at, okay, I'm just looking at the fact that I have enough space to gum the fabric onto the frame. So I'm going to use this piece now that I have cut as a template to cut the other, because you know we have 2 frames, so we're cutting out 2 pieces. So I'm just going to place that on another part of the fabric and just use it as a template to cut out the second piece. At this point, the chipboard is already the gum on the chipboard is feeling tacky, so I'm just going to place the chipboard on my lining piece, which in this case is the satin fabric, and then I'm going to trim off. Don't forget to leave out extra pieces of the fabric when cutting. That's what you use to gum it over the other end. Don't worry, I know it's a little bit confusing to understand, but just keep watching. At this point, I'm just smoothing the fabric over it to make sure it is very smooth, no bumps, the fabric isn't scrunching or clumping anywhere. So that's what I'm doing at this point. So I'm just going to trim it out so I don't have too much extra fabric to work with. Now those corners, you would see it in a bit, is advisable to notch. Notching is just cutting lines at corners and edges of fabrics when you're trying to gum over something to ensure that it stays properly. Okay, so that's what I'm about to do now. In this case, I'm just using the scissors, and then I'm just notching. If you can see, I'm just cutting lines across that corner so it goes over. But see, it won't go over if you don't notch it. So you just notch, and after doing that, you put gum just at the corners where where the extra fabric is. You just lightly put gum at those corners so that you can just gum the lining over it. You have a perfect inner piece for a clutch bag. So we're getting to the main part. So now we're going to measure the sides of our bag. We already have the width as 2.5 cm. Next thing we're going to measure is the side. If you notice the way the bag opens, the hinges of that frame is on one part, of the metal part is on one part, so which means they don't have equal sides. One side is longer than the other, and I'm going to use this tape rule to show you now. So from where that hinge is where you measure down to where the chain hook is. That chain hook is where you fix your chain, so you're just going to measure to right about that point, not exactly there, just somewhere beside it. Okay, so let me just show you how you deal with the tape rule. So well, when you close it works better. So you just put your tape rule right there at the hinge of the bag. But let me show you how it works on other frames. Now look at this bag now. So basically the width of this bag is about 4 cm or 4.5 cm, with regards to this other one we're doing that is 2.5 cm. Okay, so this is why it's crucial to measure it before you use 2.5 cm on a bag that is bigger. This one now is way wider, as you can see. This is about 5.5 cm when you measure the width, so always take note. Same thing for this one. As you can see, we are measuring, I'm stopping right around there, which is about 17 cm. See where the elastic is for the bag? So that is what I'm trying to explain to you. You measure from the hinge of the bag to somewhere at the side where when you open the bag, nothing spills off in this case. See, I'm doing the same thing for this other one too as well. So just watch so you understand. From the hinge to the side of the bag to the almost very top of the side of the bag. So we're going to do the same for this one. So from one side to almost there. So see, that is about 10 cm. So I'm just going to write it out so I don't forget. And then we're going to do the other side too. So measure from the hinge to the top too as well. So always use where that hook is, the chain hook, to mark it out. So you're going to write that out. That is about 26 cm. So you see the two sides are not even the same. Alright, at this point the frames are ready for the fabrics to be glued on. It's already tacky, so you just place the fabric right side facing down as usual, the wrong side facing up, put the padded frame on it and just gum. Always stretch, and I like working from the north and the south part. So basically just glue the opposite ends before you can start doing the sides. That way you can see if it fits properly. So basically it's quite simple at this point, a little bit tricky, so just take your time. You're not in a rush. Make sure the fabric is smooth, so keep checking. So all you're going to do is just stretch. Now there is a little indentation, I don't know why it's not showing so clearly, but there's a little indentation on this particular one, so that part kind of goes inside. So I'm trimming the fabric so it smooths over that part properly. So when you're doing yours, observe the frame of the clutch you're working on. Okay, so just smoothing the fabric over it, drag it. Please don't drag it too much so you don't rip your fabric or spoil anything. but just stretch your fabric over it. Now that the gum is tacky, it's going to stick properly. So are you seeing how smooth it looks? So just keep doing that. You drag. Should I use the word drag? Drag sounds very bully. All right, you just stretch it over it and do that all the way around. Alright, at this point, we're going to be working on the sides. This is the part where you remember the 10 cm and the 26 centimeters we measured earlier, and the 2.5 width. We've already used that one, so it's just the 10 and the 26 here. We also need to take into consideration how wide you want the bag to open. For example, if I want the bag to open 9 cm, I do times 2 of it because I am going to add elastic to it. We'll see how that goes. But first thing, I'm just going to, you fold the fabric in two because our side is going to be double fabric. So you fold it into two and measure the 26 cm. Or you can just measure out 52 cm straight away. But I think it's easier for me to just fold and measure. So at this point, I'm trying to get 26 cm. So once that's gotten, I use about 18 to 20 cm for the width of my bag, for the width of the fabric, which is still going to shrink because we're going to add elastic to it. So I'm just going to mark it out and use my chalk to mark out that point and then trim it off. It's just see how I'm looking for chalk that is just there looking at me. But anyways, the elastic part, that's what I was trying to talk about. The elastic we're going to measure out is about 7 cm, I think. So when you stretch it, you get that 18 cm. So we're going to leave it about 9 cm and then cut it out. This is 8 cm actually. So we're going to cut out 2 because we need 2 sides. So you cut out 2 pieces of the elastic at 8 cm. You set it aside, and then for the fabric we're going to cut out 26 by 18 cm and 10 by 18 cm. The width is going to remain 18 cm, but the length is going to be both 10 and 26 cm. Alright, now we have both pieces cut out. So I'm just going to slightly notch those corners so I would know where the middle is. I don't have to be folding to know where the middle of the fabric is. So it's just a little notch, just so when you open it, you can see the mark and you know that's the middle of the fabric. This helps when you're trying to sew the elastic, which is what we're about to do now. So let's go to the sewing machine and get this done. Alright, so see, this is where the part that we notch comes into play, because it's very easy for us to see it when we open the fabric. So that part you notch, you're just going to put the elastic there and just sew the elastic down. I don't want anything shifting when I'm sewing, so that's what I'm doing here. I'm just sewing the elastic down, and I'm going to do it for the two pieces of fabric and the two notched side. Okay, so we've done one part. We're going to do the other part. So just move the elastic to that other notched part, place it on it, and then so just back stitch and front stitch a couple of times so the elastic doesn't pull out or rip up when you're sewing. You need to be very careful and be very patient at this point. It's very tricky because elastic is quite slippery and it moves around a bit, so I even had a little bit of issue trying to sew this. So just front stitch and back stitch to make sure it stays well. I'm going to show you the second one as well in case you didn't quite get it at this point. But then you're going to stretch it. We've sewn the elastic firmly on both ends, so as you can see the fabric is all scrunched up. So we're going to stretch and just sew directly underneath the elastic so that we've given the elastic a case. So you just stretch it at one point and then sew all the way down, just as you see I'm doing here. So sew down to that other point, and there we have it. We've already fixed elastic on the fabric. You can see that stretches. So we're going to do it for the second part as well. Open up, fix your elastic, sew the elastic on both ends, and then we're good to go. Alright, so I just still sewed just the corners of the fabric to make sure nothing shifts. So you know the fabric is folded in two, so I'm just sewing it down in place. I'm going to do the same for the second piece as well. So we have all our pieces all set up. We have our sides, we have our inside, we have our outer, and we have the metal frame, of course. So now we're going to start assembling them together. I forgot to add that we would also need a glue gun. A glue gun is electrical equipment that is connected to lights to produce gum. This candle wax, as you can see, passes through the metal part and then it gives you gum. It's quite different from the usual gum you use, and I like using it when it's time to assemble my bags. So I just plugged it and turned it on so it just heats up. Alright, down to the side of the bags, we're going to apply gum lightly on the sides of the lining piece not really the lining piece, the sides of the bag, because these fabrics here are the sides of the inside of the bag. So you're just going to apply gum lightly to the side so that you can stick it to the paper frame that we created. So we're going to do it on both parts and then glue it. Now when you're working on the frame, if you notice, you're going to see shortly, I put the paper the lining covered paper, I put it on the frame so I would know exactly where to start and where to stop when I am fixing the sides of the bag. So just watch what I'm doing now. Just put gum on the sides basically, but I just go back just to be very sure of where I'm putting the gum, and so you know which side is which side, because you know the shorter one is going to one side and the longer one is going to one side. So I'm just marking it out with my biro so I can know which is which, and do the same for the second side as well. That point, just mark it and mark the other one too. So that's just it. So I already know where I'm going to put my gum, so I'm just going to lightly put my gum just from that marked end to the other marked end on both sides. As usual, we're just going to set it aside to get tacky. And now while the gum is getting dried, so we can fix it, we're just going to fix the outer of our frame to the metal frame. So you're just going to figure out where the front and the back is. The part that opens is the front. So basically, that's just it. So you're going to decide, because you know I arranged it in different ways. You can decide, okay, I want this part of my print to be the front, I want this part of my print to be the back. So that's a decision you have to make too. So when you decide the part that's going to be your front and your back, you just lightly put your glue gun just inside that crevice where the frame will fit into. So you just lightly put a little bit of the gum into those corners. Be careful not to put gum on the hinge where the bag opens and closes, that hinge of the bag. Be careful not to put gum there, or your bag will open and close it to just make it stiff. So you just lightly press it into to make sure it stays properly in the frame. We're going to do the same on the second part as well. Now for the second part, you have to be careful because that is where the mechanism that opens it and closes it is. So you have to be very careful not to put gum at that corner. You're going to see, I'm going to just show you with my pen so you can see what I'm talking about. That is where the mechanism that opens the bag is. See it? So make sure you do not put gum there, or that lever at the top won't open and close. So you're just going to not apply gum at those corners but apply gum every other place. So at those edges and at the hinge, please do not apply the glue gun. As you can see, that is where the mechanism is. I made sure that the gum didn't touch it. I just went all the way around it, and when I got to the hinge as well, I stopped, put in the middle of the hinge, and then continued from the other end down to the very edge where the mechanism starts as well. And then you glue it down, you put your frame on it, and then you press it down, and we're almost done. Doesn't that look pretty? I can't wait to see yours. So you just lightly press it down so that the gum can cool and make the frame stick to it. So that is part one. Now we're going to the part two, which is to fix the side. So that's what we're going to do next on the bag. So we're fixing the sides now. So just try to find the middle. It's not that difficult. So just place the fabric right there on the middle, and you see that line you drew. Let the tip of your elastic, the tip of it, let it just be around that area, and then you just gum the rest of the fabric there. That is why I said it's advisable we mark that point. So you just adjust it as well as you can adjust it. Take the other end too, as you can see, to that marked point, and put it there, and then just adjust the remaining part of the fabric over it, and we're done with one part. So we're going to the second part, and we're going to do the same thing as well. I'm just doing this so you see how it works. So when you place it like that and you open it, the elastic is going to help you open and close it. So the sides have been fixed, and that is how it's going to open. So that is the advantage of adding elastic to the sides of your bag. Okay, we're almost getting there. We done step 1, step 2, now we done step 3. So you just try to see what part fits into one part, so you don't glue the wrong part to the right part. So that's what I'm trying to do now. Just arrange that inner frame into the main bag to see how it opens and closes, and it looks perfect to me. So next thing is, on the part you're going to work with, you're just going to lightly apply gum. Now you can decide to use gum, the top one, or you can decide to use the glue gun. I'm going to be using the two of them actually. And you can decide to use super glue for the parts that I am using the glue gun. You can use super glue there too as well if you want a more permanent fix to what you're doing. Okay. So the gum is tacky now because I've left it to dry for a while, and then you're just going to glue the two parts together. As you can see what I'm doing, so just be careful, take your time. I always say this, there is no rush. Take your time and just press it down. The gum is there, so it's just going to do its job by helping you stick it together. Your job is to align it in the appropriate way. So you're just going to press it down. Now if you notice, I didn't really put gum at the edges, so that is where I am using the top bond. If you have super glue, you can use super glue, and be very careful. The glue gun is really hot, like the gum that comes out is really hot, so you need to be careful. I've burnt myself quite a number of times. Not an exciting experience. So be careful. The parts that you feel are opening, please don't add extra gum to it, because there's no way you can leave it to get tacky. Use a glue gun or a super glue and let it stick in place. So that's what I'm doing in this case. Now after I'm done with that part, I'm going to put gum on these two sides again, leave it to get tacky, and then stick it together. And after you can use the glue gun to stick down those corners that you didn't put the gum. So just use the glue gun to make sure it sticks down properly. Just apply a little bit of the gum with the glue gun and press it down so it sticks. So we're going to do the same for the second side as well. Apply gum, leave it to get dry for a bit, stick it together, and use glue gun at the edges. At this point, I should say congratulations on coming this far. So it's actually not really a difficult process. It's just takes quite a bit of time to master everything. But we've done well, don't you think? All right, now the glue gun tends to leave a stain at times. So if you have stain, all you need to do is just, I'm using a piece of foam in this case because it was closest to me. You can use the foam, you can use a cotton wool, you can use a piece of fabric. Just apply a little bit of spirit to it and rub it over where you want to remove the excess glue gun. I think a couple of just it stained a little, so I'm just using it to clean everywhere around it or where I think the stain might be. The spirit removes it, so all you have to do is just rub the cotton wool or the foam around that piece. So thank you so much for watching this far. I would really love to hear from you. How was the tutorial? Was it self-explanatory? Do you think there's any major step I missed? Just let me know. But basically, we're done. Alright, thank you so much for watching. At this point, I was looking for a piece of chain to put in it so you guys would see how it looks like. So there's hooks at the sides, therefore they're chain straps, so you can just fix your chain. You can buy this chain, it's pre-made this way and it has its hook. It has the hook attached to it and it's pre-made, so just apply it, just fix it over there so you can carry it with the chain or carry it with the handle that comes with it. It's the end of the class. Thank you so much for watching. Can't wait to see your work. All right, if you need the information of the person I buy the frames from, just let me know and I'll give you the information. I'll leave my number and my